G'day. In this video, we're going to create a simple Tkinter window. Let's get started. If you want to see any of the notes or get any of the code from any of these videos, go to the GitHub link in the description below. You can see everything we do. There's even suggestions for more practice and links to further documentation. Let's have a look at some code. Here's some simple code that's going to run and display a little window. There's only 3 lines of code. Let's run it first and see what it does. We're going to click the play button, and then we're going to get a little Tkinter window. This is on Windows, so it looks like, or tries to at least, a Windows application. If you're on a different OS, it'll do its best to look like an application from that OS. So here you can see I've got the normal icons for minimizing and maximizing, and we've got a little application icon up there, and a little menu that shows up if I click on that, just like normal. And I can maximize the window, make it smaller, move it around, resize it, all the things that you can generally do with an application on your operating system. Not bad for 3 lines of code. There's no right click yet, there's no widgets displaying. We can put all them in later. Let's have a quick look at the code. First line of code is this one. It's going to import the Tkinter module, and using that module, we're going to rename it as TK. That's just going to save us some typing later on. Then down here, we're going to create a variable called root. You'll often see root used all the time on tutorials you might find on the internet or on Stack Overflow and that kind of stuff. It's just the name of the variable. You could call it banana. It doesn't matter what you call it. But what we're going to do is we're going to use the TK module, and we're going to start a TK application. Don't forget there's a capital T there. And then finally, we're going to run this main loop line. This main loop line is what shows the actual window. Well, it tells it to show. And while it's showing, it pauses and waits for any input into the window. So if you click the mouse or if you type in anything, if you interact with the window, it's the main loop that is listening for that. And it's going to respond if you do anything. That can sometimes be a trick for people first starting out with Tkinter. One of the things they sometimes do is they put code after the main loop line. So let's just see what happens if we do that. So we'll just try and print a message to the terminal and see what happens when we run our code. So let's run the file again. There's our window, but if you look down the terminal, nothing's printed yet. And it's not going to print until we close the window. Now it's printed. So what's happening is main loop is blocking any code below it from running until after it's finished. The main loop won't finish until you close the window. So it's waiting for events and listening to things, and it needs to just keep running in the background. And while it's doing that, Python doesn't give you the opportunity to run any more code until it's finished. Let's look at another version, slightly nicer. Let's put them side by side so we can see them both together. There we go. In this version 2.1, you'll see we've still got mostly the same code. We've got the import line, and we've got the 2 root lines. But we've added in a few more. I guess the main thing is we've now got a function, defined a function called main. And main is the one that has our 2 lines of code in it now. So you can see it's indented because all of this stuff is part of the function. And then down the bottom, we're using what's called an idiom, which is a standard way of doing something in Python. The Python interpreter sees this and understands what it's supposed to do automatically. So it's like doing something for you without you having to tell it what to do. It just does it because it knows what it needs to do. So in this case, if you run this file now, Python sees this line of code and says, oh, you're running the file as a script, so I'm going to run the main function. So it's going to go up here and run any code we've got in the main function. So when we click the play button, it's going to show our window, just like we did on the first version. You might be thinking, well, why the difference? Why do I need this extra information? Why do I need this idiom? Well, that's because if we were going to import this file into another project, say into another file, we wanted to get access to this code, just like we did up at the top with Tkinter. We want to import this into another file. Because when we do that, we're importing the code instead of running the script. This idiom says, well, you're importing it now, you're not running a script, so I'm not going to run the main function. So in other words, it won't call this code and run it every time we import it. If we use this file and tried to import this file into another project, every time we ran the import, this code would run because there's nothing stopping it. And we probably don't want that. That wouldn't be so good. So this is a better way to go. And you should try doing this more in your code if you're not already. There's one more level we can go to though, slightly more advanced. Let's put that one over here. It's almost the same between version 2 and version 3. The only difference is we've got a class now instead of a function. So in our class, we're actually subclassing, or we're using the TK application here. And we're making our own class, our own object. And then down in our idiom section, we're using that object to run this code. And we've still got the same main loop function. Everything's pretty much the same. It's just now we've got a class, which means that if we import this file, we can use that class in other projects. So if we built up our interface and got it set up exactly how we wanted, we could then use this class and import it into another project and have access to our full interface really quickly. It's just a way of encapsulating our code, putting it all together, bunching it all up, keeping it together, making it consistent. All those things mean that your code can be a bit more flexible, a bit more reliable, and a bit more robust. And that's a good thing. And that's all we're going to do today. Thanks for watching. And as always, if you enjoyed this video or it was useful, feel free to give it a thumbs up. See you in the next one.